I mean, California Republicans, I just showed you, are 30% of registration in the states because they're really stupid. And racist, but. Republicans are 82% white. You want to know why this is what Jason wanted me to talk about. You want to know why they're taking in the shorts in California. Republicans are 82% white.
You should see the convention.
Republican Party California, as I say all the time, on the record, in print, and on radio, and on TV, is the last vestige of any real white people. And that's what this is. Republicans are trying to prevent people of color and people of lower income from voting by requiring voter ID. Whether or not the school bonds that were on the ballot got passed so that schools could be built, so that Latino and African American kids could go to school in their own neighborhoods, those bonds had to be approved by a bunch of old white people. What do you think? Easy to do?
Yeah.
Yeah? You have more trust in old white people than I do. We discovered, and this is generally true, the least flexible voter in America, the person who's less likely to change their mind about anything, is an old white guy. Old white guys are stubborn sons of bitches. They just are. You get into politics, you get into governments because you want to control, you want power. You want to, Obama wants to run this country. George Romney thinks he ought to run the damn country. You get to decide who's going to run the country. It's about power. Al Gore won the presidency of the United States, didn't get to be president. That's power. He got more votes, right? I mean, we all know he got more votes. That's a fact. You think the Bush people did what they did in Florida for fun? The presidency of the United States was at stake. There are tens of thousands of people who are now dead because George Bush, even though he got fewer votes, became the president of the United States. That's a fact.
Here's the problem. What would you say is one of the biggest, probably the biggest vulnerability that Romney has?
Integrity.
No?
He's too rich.
That he doesn't understand people like me. Right? Bain Capital won't release his taxes. That the guy doesn't understand normal human beings, right? That's the problem. The Republicans saw this coming in Santa Ana, which is also in Orange County. And they wanted, I'm talking about how the Republicans are trying to diminish votes on the part of poor people and people of color with the voter ID thing. I mean, Republicans are merciless about it. They're just merciless because they know what to deal with. In 1996 in Orange County, where there was the surge in Latino registration, and we were running Latino candidates for the first time in some of these districts, and won, which is how one of the ways we got the majority back, not the only way, but one of the ways. The Republicans, in an effort to diminish Latino turnout, I don't know if I told you this before, hired private security guards dressed in brown uniforms and posted them outside of polling places. They hired all these brown shirts, private security guards, and just had them stand there. And there was story after story of second, third generation Latinos who just took one look at those guards and turned them around and walked away, figuring that maybe they were immigration. They were going to get questions about their citizenship. I mean, it's true. You can read about it. I'm not making this up. So on the subject of election law, I guess the story there is never underestimate the ability of people to try to diminish the ability of voters who are otherwise entitled to vote. The Republicans hire a firm to register voters, and they approach you at Trader Joe's and they say, "Are you registered to vote?" And you say no, and they say, "Well, let us help you register to vote. You're supposed to vote out." And you check off that you register as a Democrat. Well, the allegation is they throw those. Okay, I ask you, would you please register to vote? We'd like you to register to vote. It's the American thing to do, right? And you just, here, fill this out, just sign here, and you do that. And then I take the form, and I notice that you have checked off, because you're a smart guy and you think the right way, Democrat. You registered as a Democrat. And I go, shit, the whole point here is to get more Republicans registered. So I go home and I shred it. The only states where Romney's beating Obama that are considered competitive states are North Carolina and Missouri. And
I think it's up in New Hampshire.
Where?
New Hampshire.
Not the last time I looked. He's down. Oh, he's a loser, let's just face it.
And one of the things that Obama is counting on is, and I'm sure his team has been very hard at work on this, is that Romney tends to, make shit up. And so I think what you're going to have is a lot of pushback in the coming week or two. On the other hand, I think I said in class before, I watched Ann Romney during the convention. I don't think very many swing female voters identify with Ann Romney. Ann Romney looks to me like she's out of 1955. And the women who are going to help decide the race are often women who have to work for a living, maybe single, maybe divorced, maybe single parents or raising kids, and she looks like she's hanging out at the country club in Mad Men. And I think that what they tried to do in the convention didn't work, because I think the entire convention was aimed at 1955. But that's a case where I think people look at her and they like her, she's fine, but I don't know that they think she understands anything about them. Monroe is one of the 2,100 names that Tea Party groups have sought to remove from Ohio voter rosters. The groups and their allies describe it as a citizen movement to prevent ballot fraud, like vigilantes, right? Although the Republican Secretary of State said in an interview they knew no evidence that any more than a handful of illegal votes had been cast in Ohio in the last few presidential elections. Some Democrats see it as a targeted voter suppression drive. The names selected for purging include hundreds of college students. I hope you're outraged. Trailer park residents, homeless people, and African Americans in counties President Obama won in 2008. Do you get why they're doing this? Is it legal to do it? Yeah. They have a right to do it. It's tasteless. You can think what you want about this. I think it's offensive. On the other hand, it's legal. And what have I always said to you? This is about power. These people aren't doing it for sport, they're doing it for power. My belief is if you want to win, you play by the rules and you beat their ass. That's all. You just kick their butts.
Well, they are playing by the rules.
Huh? They are. Yeah. So we play by the rules and kick their butts. That's all. We just get a lot of black people out to vote. That's my answer to this. Is you just get a lot of college students and African Americans and whoever else they're targeting. You get them out and you get them to vote. That's the way the system works. It's offensive. It's highly offensive. But the only answer I know is beat them. So what I talk about up here and what you read about is what's happening now. I want you to understand that I'm not standing up here just doing this for some academic reason. I want you to understand you're in a course that is affecting the future of America. This is about power. And my response every time this comes up is, they're going to do what they're going to do, and you just got to beat them. You've got to get beyond the obvious. The obvious is that the Republicans are trying to impose voter ID requirements on the people they don't want to see vote. And those are people who are Democrats. And they can be young people, they can be old people, significantly they're African Americans. And so you go, oh my God, let's talk about voter ID. It's not that simple. These people are very determined. They are doing everything they can do to make sure these people absolutely are not going to get to vote. Now, do they have a right to do that? Yeah, they do. It may offend people like me, but they have a right to do it. I will say to you again, you got to kick their butts. You got to go out there and you got to fight the law and you got to get people registered and you got to get them to vote. That's how you win in the American system.
How do you stop Republicans from voting? What would be your strategy to get the Republicans?
You can't. Republicans just vote. You lose the information on the election in the mail. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it.
Black Panthers outside of the polling place.
Yeah, you do that. Just don't tell them there's an election. I've always said, just don't tell people there's an election. They found these results on Prop 30, which is the very important Jerry Brown-sponsored temporary tax increase to save the state from blowing into little pieces. A measure to crack down on human trafficking. How did that lose? Anybody here for human trafficking? I don't think so. You won't see numbers like this. It's 81% yes and 11% no.
Who are those 11%?
Exactly. Exactly. I don't want to be anywhere near any of the 11%.
What is wrong with it? It's about the amount of money for, and then the law enforcement resources to enforce it.
These are probably all Republicans.
It is.
Yeah. And when the district lines were drawn by a bunch of people who presumably were fair and nonpartisan and even-handed, the Republicans sucked wind. And the reason that they sucked wind is there aren't any of them. I told you, 30% of registered voters in California are Republicans. Why would they get districts, relatively safe Republican districts, that constitute more than about 30% of the Assembly, the Senate, or the Congressional? So they got what they deserved, but they didn't like that. Because they refused to acknowledge that they're going the way of the dinosaurs. So, all campaigns have a message to communicate to the voters. Vote for Obama because he's going to create jobs, keep the peace, and protect Social Security. Vote for Romney because Obama's all fucked up and I got to do things differently. Okay, whatever. We talked about Prop 32 being on the ballot. Prop 32 is extremely important. It is an effort by the business community to cut off the flow of funds to labor unions to use in campaigns. So you're going to do this on your own, right? It's called independent expenditure. You form your own committee. Who are you supporting? You're going to support Mayo or Philman?
This is the second guy.
Philman? Well, are you Democrat or Republican?
Not, you want neither. It's all right. That's just the second
Do
guy.
you want to support the good candidate or the bad
The
candidate?
good one.
Okay, that's fine.
He's a Democrat.
He's a Democrat. Anything else on Obama?
Why is everyone going off about this binders full women thing? It's irrelevant.
Let me suggest to you that you should look through the world through other people's eyes, just not your own. Hold it! Thank you. Not a free-for-all. Go ahead.
But the point he was, what I'm saying is that the point he was trying to make, which he obviously didn't do well, has kind of, because in his mind, he was saying things that I think people legitimately believe and wanted to hear.
Fine, and he said it.
Well, the point is people have kind of taken what he said and are not.
So is that Romney's fault or the people's fault who took it the
Oh,
other
it's
way?
his fault, but I just think
Okay.
that people overreact.
I thought he was extremely ham-handed. I thought it was a terrible answer. I thought it was an incredibly sexist answer. I thought it was a dreadful answer and reflected who the guy really is. And we won't get into the cultures of his particular religion or anything else, but I think it's who the guy is.
Do you think he offended his base, or do you think he just...
No, he didn't offend his base, because his base is, the base is people who believe that. What he said was consistent with his base. His base is a conservative, older, whiter base, and he embodies that. I mean, I told you before, I think I told you before, I looked at Ann during the convention, I thought, holy crap, this is a country club in 1955. That's his base. It's okay, I mean, they have a right to vote. You know, they just aren't necessarily everybody who votes in this country, right? The 82% of California Republicans who are white and mostly older probably think it's great. It's okay. I mean, I'm being serious. Because of the decision in Bush v. Gore and decisions that Al Gore made in the wake of that decision, the President of the United States, by a very small margin, a razor-thin margin, became George W. Bush as opposed to Al Gore. And I say this not in any way taking sides, but you know, because of this decision, you know, tens of thousands of people who might not have been killed have now been killed because Bush took us into wars in Iraq and in Afghanistan, and a lot of things would be very, very different.
What do you think he thinks?
I think Al Gore should have been elected President of the United States. I think the election got stolen, that's what I think. I give the Republicans a lot of credit. They played very tough and very mean, and they stole the election. That's what I think.
So you think it was a partisan decision?
Huh?
You think it was a partisan decision?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think entirely constitutionally, entirely legally, I think they stole the election. That's what I think. And this happens all the time. People lie. You saw Mitt Romney lie on TV. Anything else you want to talk about in light of the fact that we just elected a president of the United States? The Democrats increased our control of the Senate, yay, a little bit in the House. And if that happens, the Democrats are in total control of the state of California. I believe we will continue to allow Republicans to live here. But Republicans will be totally, completely, utterly irrelevant, but we don't need them anymore. They are totally irrelevant, clinically depressed. In District 52, Scott Peters appears to have beaten another Republican incumbent. That's two Republicans who are biting the dust. I feel very bad for them. The Republican Party is increasingly the last refuge of old, angry white people who don't like what's going on in this country. I said to you, I think in class, I've said a lot in my media comments, that when I looked at Ann Romney speak at the Republican convention, for those of you who saw it, that I looked at her and I said, this is a woman who just had lunch at the country club with the girls in 1957 and walked out and got into her Cadillac